Hello and welcome back to this course of videos on MongoDB. Now in this video we're going to begin looking at using MongoDB with a real life application. And the back-end programming language we're going to be using for this application is PHP. Now in order to use PHP or Node or any other kind of back-end server-side programming language with MongoDB, you're always going to need to install a driver. Now a driver is really a tool that translates the language between your back-end server-side language and Mongo. That's really what a driver is a translator. And we are going to install the driver for PHP. Now the way to install this driver is to go to this website here, which is pecl.php.net and then /package and /MongoDB. Now it can be a little bit confusing here because there's a lot of different DLLs available. A DLL stands for Dynamic Link Library. It's basically an extension for PHP that allows it to talk with Mongo. But we have so many versions here and we need to know which one to use. If you scroll down to the bottom here, you can see here that for each of the releases it tells you which version of PHP you need to have for the release. Now, in order to find out which version of PHP you're using, you're likely to be using WAMP or XAMPP to run your Apache PHP server. I'm actually using WAMP, but it should be pretty similar for XAMPP. If I start up my WAMP server here, down in my tray here, I can now see my WAMP server. And if I just open up this, I can go to PHP and version, and I can see my version that I'm using is 5.6.25. So if I go back to the PECL website here, you can see release 1.28 is for 5.4.0 or newer, 7.99 and older. So my PHP version of 5.6 would be this release 1.28 here. So I'm going to go to 1.28 and I'm going to click on this hyperlink here for DLL. Now this will take me through to a second page, so which can also be quite confusing. So if you recall, the version we want is PHP 5.6. That is the version that I have installed, which is what my WAMP server told me. But we have a choice between you have a choice between x64, so 64-bit, and 32-bit. Mine is 64-bit, so I'm happy with it's one of these two I've narrowed it down to, but non-thread safe or thread safe. So the way to figure that out, and it will be similar to XAMPP, but I am WAMP, I'm going to go to my C drive, and from my C drive I'm going to my WAMP folder. From here I'm going to go to my bin, my binary folder, and my PHP folder, and as you remember we were PHP 5.6.25 was the version that I installed. And if I scroll down here, I can see I have this DLL here already installed, which is PHP 5TS. TS stands for thread safe. So if you have this file, then you have the thread safe version. So I'm going to install my thread safe for PHP 5.6 64-bit. Now I'm going to click on this here. It's going to download for me, and I'm going to go to my downloads folder, and you can see here it is. Now, slightly confusing again, it's downloaded a whole zip file with these 6 items in. We only need one. We only need this one DLL file, Dynamic Link Library file, called php_MongoDB. Now what you need to do is you need to copy this extension file and put it into your PHP folder within your WAMP or XAMPP server. So I'm going to copy, I've actually already copied it, but let's pretend. I copy it here, and I'm going to go back to my C drive, back into my WAMP again, back into my binary file again, and back into PHP, back to where I was before. However, this time I am going to go into my ext folder. Ext stands for extensions. So these are where I put my PHP extensions that will work with my WAMP server. And you can see if I scroll down here, I've actually already copied it in. But you can see here, this wasn't there before. PHP MongoDB DLL. You copy it from the download location and you copy it here. Now, that's not everything that's required to install this driver. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to Control-C and copy, because we need the name of this DLL file, and we need to now go into our php.ini file to let PHP know that this DLL file actually exists. Now, to get back to that, we go back to our PHP 5.6.25 file, and I'm going to find my php.ini. I'm going to right click, I'm going to open it in Notepad, and what we're going to do here is if you Control F and type in Windows ext, we're looking for a part of the this php.ini called Windows Extensions. Here we are. Now this lists out all of the extensions that my PHP program is going to use. So, and you can see I've already added in here, but this is what you need to add in. And the reason I copied the name of that DLL file is I need to put it in here. So you need to write extension equals and then the name of the DLL file that we just copied. And once you add that, so we've added that to our php.ini file, and we've installed the PHP in our ext file. We've installed it here. So with the installation and the reference, we now have the driver successfully installed. Alas, that isn't everything we need to work with to have MongoDB working with PHP. We're nearly there. Now, another thing that we need to do, so we've already installed the driver, but we also need to install the PHP library. Working with the driver alone to code to work Mongo in with PHP would be very difficult because it's very bare bones. Much better to install the PHP library, which will give us a full API to work with Mongo from PHP, and we're going to download that using a package manager called Composer. Now, if I go to get composer.org, Composer is similar to, for those of you that are familiar with NPM, Node Package Manager, this is like Node Package Manager for PHP. It's a piece of software that gives us access to a plethora of different tools and modules for PHP to work with different things, and it's all free. It's like a free online market where you can download these little tools for your applications to help you run them. So in order to download Composer, like I said, go to getcomposer.org, click on the download button here, and it should take me to another page. Oh, there we go. And I've actually already installed this, but if you click on Composer setup.exe, for some reason, what's going wrong here? Okay, now it's downloaded. And I'm going to go to my downloads folder, and you can see Composer setup.exe. I've already installed this, but it's a simple executable, and follow the instructions and it will install Composer. Now, Once I have Composer installed, I now want to set up the foundation for my application that is going to run using PHP and Mongo and using my WAMP server. So in order to do that, I first need to navigate. I'm going to use Windows Explorer here. I'm going to navigate to the folder that I want to hold my new application that we're creating. So I'm going to go into my WAMP server to my www file. This is where, in order to use WAMP, and XAMPP has something similar, your root files need to exist here. So I'm going to create a new folder here which is going to hold my application, and my application is going to be called Shoe Store. So I'm going to go into this folder. Now here we now need to use Composer to download the Mongo library to this particular folder so we can use it with our application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, I'm going to open up a git bash here. You could open up a Windows Explorer. I'm just going to use git bash. I prefer using git bash to the Windows command prompt. And I'm simply going to write Composer, it's already installed, and I'm going to say Composer require, and then I'm going to open up here. I'm going to put MongoDB/MongoDB. Now, and I'm going to hit enter here. And if you look what's being installed now in this particular folder as this runs, we've got a composer.json, which is very much like a package.json for npm. And now it's installed our PHP library there and a composer.log file. So this has now, Composer has now installed everything we need to access our and use our PHP library for working with MongoDB. So all I'm going to need to do now is begin adding my web files here, like my index.php or index.html, my HTML, PHP, CSS files, etc. in this folder, and they will work wonderfully with the PHP library. And when I run this live, our PHP drivers are already installed with our WAMP server, so we'll all be ready to go, and we can see that in the next lesson.